Hello there and welcome to a new series that I'm calling Shatterpoint 101. These are going to go over some basics of the game in short form videos, as well as going over individual units or combos of two units and why they work well together. Now this was inspired by Rhyme on the unofficial Shatterpoint Discord, so thank you for the inspiration. And I wanted to start with pushing and pulling, because this is a basic core mechanic of the game, and it's very specific in how it works. So often we use the range 2 or 3 tools, and when it's range 1, that's just the edge of any tool. There's also a shove tool, which is just another way of measuring range 1, which can help under gantries, but if I'm being honest, I usually just use the range 2 because it fits as well. And it's usually already in my hand. So how do we push or pull? When you have something that pushes, you need to, first, it may be away from something. So in this example, we'll have Ahsoka and Maul. So Maul is going to push Ahsoka away. And for that, we need one of our movement tools, which we will bend until it stops, get a 90-degree angle, put it against the base of the unit that is going to be pushed, and kind of use it as an arrow towards the unit that is doing the pushing. Now, when you push, the base of the unit that is being pushed has to end within that arc that you've created. So if we're doing a range 1 push, we can't push her this way. We need to either go in line with it, the tool, either way, or within that. Okay, so we'll line it up against the base and move her along. And so when you're pushing, you have to imagine that you're actually pushing the base along the whole length of the push. And then it's going to end up that the other side of her base is on the other side of the tool. Now, this is important because if you bump into something, if the base bumps into something, that will stop the push or pull. It's also important to note that whatever push or pull you're doing, it has to go, if it's unobstructed, it has to go the full length of the push or pull. So if Ahsoka was over here and we pushed her, she would go until she bumps into the terrain and stop, because that is stopping us from going the full length. Now, this is an important thing to note when it comes to the take cover action. Take cover action gives you a range 1 push and a hunker. Now, because this is an active action, some people sometimes will end up just using that as extra movement and kind of place the model wherever they would like. However, the take cover action is still a push, and therefore it needs to go the full length of that push. However, you can also still bump into stuff. So here we could bump into the crates and stop. This is another thing to keep in mind, since I may be wanting to get in range of this objective here, but using the take cover action will bump me into the crates and stop me potentially outside of range 2 to contest. So for that reason, if you know that you are probably going to do a take cover action, you may want to do that first, because with a move action, you can move over top of the crates because they are not a new elevation that's above range 2. They're under range 2, so you can walk over them with your advance. A take cover action is also not a movement. So it is not a jump, climb, dash, and therefore ending within range 1 of an ingress point will not allow you to use the ingress point off of the take cover action. Only moves that use the movement tools are going to allow you to do that. So that is another thing to keep in mind when you're planning your moves. If you're going to use a take cover action, you might want to do that again first so that you can use the advance to get to your ingress point and take it up. Now, another source of pushes and pulls is a shove, which is common on many combat trees. And so let's say that Maul got a result where he is shoving Ahsoka. So what happens is first you can decide whether or not you are going to push Ahsoka the 1 inch. And if I'm going this way, then I will go the full length. Of course, if I pick another direction within that arch, I could be pushing her into the building here till she stops. Next, you decide if you want to do a follow-up. So a follow-up is a 1 inch pull of your character towards the defending character. So for this, we're going towards. So we are going to line up the advance tool bent like this towards, directed towards Ahsoka. And we can decide to do a 1 inch push in any direction within that band. So you can use that. Say I had multiple shoves. I could have decided not to shove her first and take my follow-up in order to get a different angle. If, say, I had a second shove and I really wanted to shove her into these crates, well, now we're lining up the tool this way and I can push her that way. So on each of those shoves, you can pick whether or not you want to shove, push the defender and pull the attacker. They are independent of each other, so you can choose to do just the follow-up or just the push. Also, if you come up against a character with steadfast, they are going to ignore the first shove off of your combat tree, and therefore they're going to decide for you that you are not going to push them. However, this does not stop you from doing a follow-up. So you can still do the pull towards them, even though they're blocking your push with steadfast. Now again, with Ahsoka and Maul, Maul has a pull ability, active ability. It can pull someone who is within range 3 of him, and the pull is range 2. Now, this follows all the same rules that we've gone over. So currently, if we're pulling towards, we're going to line up the tool so that's directed from the back of Ahsoka's base towards Maul. And we can pull her to range 2 in either of these directions. However, because I've placed Maul very close to Ahsoka, when we drag the base along, it is going to bump into Maul's base, and therefore she would have to stop there. So for that reason, we want to give ourselves a little more distance in order to give room for that pull to actually utilize the full length of the pull. Asajj also has an ability which will do a push, and this is a range, again, the other character has to be within range 3, and it is a range 3 push. So again, we're going to line up our bent movement tool directed towards Asajj, but on this side of Ahsoka's base, and we can push her in any direction here. But as you can see, if I go anywhere along here, we're going to bump into the building. And let's say we want to give a full length push, so we could direct it this way, because there is nowhere along the way that Ahsoka is going to bump into anything, and we can really push her away from where she wanted to be. Now it's time to talk about pushing or pulling off a gantry. So again, the same rules are going to apply. Say Maul is pulling Ahsoka, we line up our tool, she can go anywhere within this band, and it is range 2. So we aren't going to bump into Maul because we are at a different elevation. However, there needs to be room for the model to land, and Maul is underneath, or the crate's underneath over here. So because of that, the last legal spot for her to be is at the edge of the gantry. Therefore, again, our Maul has put himself too close, and if he's out of the way, then we could pull her this way off the gantry, because there's enough space for her to land at the lower elevation. Now, similarly, if you want to, say, do a shove off of the gantry, the full base has to be off of the gantry before it can fall down. So in this case, it's not quite enough. She would land here, and that's not a legal spot to be in. So she would back up until she's just on the edge of that gantry. That's also true going the other way. You can see that the edge of the range tool is off the gantry. However, if we move her base over, it is still partially on the elevated terrain, and therefore she would have to back up until she is fully on the elevated terrain. So thank you for watching the first of my series of Shatterpoint 101 videos. I hope you enjoyed it, and look out for more.